Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. Today we'll be discussing on one of the very useful topic which sometimes you come across in your everyday practice, that is gaze disorders or gaze palsy, which can be internuclear ophthalmoplegia or can be one and a half syndrome, or occasionally it can be even eight and a half syndrome. So it is an interesting topic. To declare, I am not a neurophysician, I am not an ophthalmologist, I am a physician, I am still a student. Whatever I have understood, I am trying to share with you. After finishing this particular video lecture, I'll be putting video on those disorders which I have gathered from YouTube. If you like this lecture, please click like and subscribe and also share with other person. So we'll be discussing on internuclear ophthalmoplegia. Short form it is called INO. There is another thing which is along with the gaze palsy disorders. We call one and a half syndrome. And there is another called as one and half syndrome and eight and half syndrome. Now to understand that particular part, you should be aware of what is called gaze, what are the gaze centers, from where they are controlled, etc. So first I am explaining a very simple thing. This is a complicated diagram, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible. The light falls on the retina. That impulse will travel via this optic nerve pathway, will go to visual cortex, that is occipital lobe. That visual cortex is connected to two main center, one in the frontal lobe, we call frontal eye field center, and parieto eye field, that is parietal lobe, but it is also called as parieto occipital temporal field center, which is close to that angular gyrus. After those impulse which goes to that frontal field center and parieto occipital center, frontal eye field center is concerned with saccadic eye movement, that is rapid movement, and parieto occipital temporal center is concerned with pursuit movement, or we call slow movement. This particular movement, they give input to lower center. So these are called supranuclear center. They give an input to nucleus, or we call center, which are present in the brainstem. In a brainstem, we have got a two center, one for vertical gaze, one for horizontal gaze. The center for horizontal gaze is present in pons, and center for vertical gaze is present at the junction of thalamo-mesencephalic junction. It is called thalamo-mesencephalic junction. So these are the two areas. This will be, say, for vertical gaze, and this will be the center for what we call as a horizontal gaze. So these are the two centers which are present in a brainstem, and from there they get connection to oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, and abducent nerve, depending upon that we'll be discussing further in detail as we come across those particular gaze. From those nucleus, that is from oculomotor nucleus or trochlear or abducent, the fiber which supplies the extraocular muscles So cranial nerves which supplies the extraocular muscles are called infranuclear pathway. So you can have a damage at supranuclear center or damage at the nuclear center and damage in the infranuclear center or infranuclear part. These are the three areas where you can get damage and you can have a disorders involving conjugate gaze palsy. This gaze is also called conjugate because the two eyeball moves in the same direction, but the muscle of actions are different. So if we see this particular diagram, you will understand very clearly. This is what is called as when the person is looking straight at a distant object. Two eyeball will have a parallel axis and eyeball will be exactly in the center. This is called normal position gaze. When you ask the person to look to the left, this is to the left. So left eyeball moves laterally because of the lateral rectus, while right eyeball moves medially or what we call as adduct because of medial rectus. This is called left gaze. So you are trying to look to the left. When you try to look to the right, right eye lateral rectus is working and left eye medial rectus is working. We call as a right gaze. When you look down, the two eyeball is looking down. While looking down in both the eye, the muscles which is looking down, that is superior oblique and inferior rectus. While when looking up, it is inferior oblique and superior rectus. So these are called horizontal gaze and vertical gaze. In horizontal gaze, you have got the right side gaze, or we call dextroversion and levoversion. And when you look up and down, it is called as supraversion, infraversion. So these are the things which are being term utilized in case of a gaze. While when you ask to look at the near object or close to the nostril, then that is called accommodation. Accommodation does not include inner gaze movements. There is a separate center for accommodation reflex. We are not going to discuss regarding that. So when a person is having a lateral gaze, say in this particular figure, you can see that the person is looking to the left. Left eyeball is moving. So left eye, lateral rectus is moving, but right eye, medial rectus is not moving. So there is some defect in a gaze. While in this, the same person, when he's trying to look to the right, right eye has got lateral rectus moving, left eye, medial rectus is moving. So left gaze is working, right gaze is working, and in a left gaze, the right eye, medial rectus is not working. This will happen in a condition we call as internuclear ophthalmoplegia. We'll be discussing in detail. So we already told you there are supranuclear centers we call as a frontal eye field center and pontine or a parietal, occipital, temporal center, which is for pursuit, and that from that area that is close to the angular gyrus, that area will supply the lower center, that is what we call as a nuclear center, which are present in the brainstem on the same side, ipsilateral, while frontal eye field center will cross over to opposite side, and after crossing over to the opposite side, it will supply those gaze center. Now there are two gaze center which are present. One at the junction of thalamus and midbrain. We call that as thalamo-mesencephalic junction, and that is responsible for vertical gaze. And in the pons, you got a center what is called as a PPRF, that is parapontine reticular formation center, which is for horizontal gaze. and this particular center is in relation to the sixth cranial nerve, while this is in a very close relation to the fourth cranial nerve. So these are the two centers which are nuclear center which will be present in the brainstem. They will give an input to different nucleus, that is 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerve nucleus, and from there you will get a cranial nerves which will supply extraocular muscle. We call that as infranuclear pathway. Also this center receives an input from vestibular apparatus, that is semicircular canal, which will give an input regarding the position of head and neck, to vestibular nucleus which is present in the pons, and from there you will have a connection to these two centers, that is center which is present in midbrain junction at thalamus, thalamo-mesencephalic junction, and inner pons we call PPRF center. So they will be connected, and then all the other pathway remains same. So you can see here the parieto-temporal occipital area which will supply ipsilateral PPRF, that will be connecting to same side 6 cranial nerve, and then to medial longitudinal fascicle, via medial longitudinal fascicle to contralateral third cranial nerve, and then that will give rise to contraction of medial rectus of opposite eye, and on the same side we call as a lateral rectus. This is ipsilateral. Parieto-temporal occipital lobe will give rise to ipsilateral supply, and that is for pursuit movement, that is slow movement, slow part of it. So here it is given very clearly. So saccade movement, that area 8 present in the frontal eye field area, which will supply, those fiber will cross to the opposite side. So contralateral PPRF will be supplied. That after crossing from PPRF, it will supply ipsilateral abduction now, which will have two groups of fiber. One which will go to lateral rectus, which will produce eyeball to move laterally, ipsilateral eyeball to move laterally, and from there you will get the fiber which will cross to the opposite side in medial longitudinal fascicle, and that will supply third cranial nerve nucleus, that is oculomotor nucleus, and via oculomotor nucleus it will supply medial rectus, giving rise to the medial movement of eyeball. While in case of command for pursuit, that is a slow movement, parieto-occipital temporal lobe area, which will supply ipsilateral PPRF, ipsilateral abducent, and then it will cross over to opposite side. It will cross over to contralateral third cranial nerve nucleus. Here something wrong. This is a diagram which shows you a horizontal gaze, which we already mentioned, that impulse will come from what we call is the opposite side frontal eye field area, which will supply first what we call as a PPRF center. This is a PPRF center. From that PPRF center you will get a fiber which will supply 6 cranial nerve. Then this 6 cranial nerve will supply lateral rectus on the same side, and will also give a fiber to cross over to opposite side, and via medial longitudinal fascicle it will supply opposite side third cranial nerve nucleus, and that will supply medial rectus. So when you get a stimulus from left side frontal eye field area, it will give rise to stimulation of right side PPRF center, which will stimulate right eye lateral rectus. So right eye will move laterally and left eye will move medial. So in case of a left gaze, say which is shown here, the right frontal field area will stimulate this, what we call as a left side PPRF center, which will stimulate 6 cranial nerve nucleus. Lateral rectus will contract. So that will give rise to left eyeball moves laterally and will stimulate right side oculomotor nucleus via medial longitudinal fascicle after crossing, and that will give rise to medial rectus contraction, and this will give rise to conjugate movements. Left eyeball moves laterally and right eyeball will move medially. This we call as abduction and this we call as adduction. Adduction, this is called abduction. So this is called left gaze. So in a left gaze, right frontal eye field area takes part, and in a right gaze, left eye field area takes part. Also you get a stimulus from a vestibular apparatus, particularly the horizontal canal, horizontal semicircular canal, which gives an input to the vestibular nucleus. From vestibular nucleus, it crosses over to the opposite side and it stimulates the opposite side abducent nerve, and then all the other pathway remains same. This is a typical pathway and how it works as far as horizontal gaze is concerned. So horizontal gaze center and pathway. This is a vestibular input. So if you want to check the vestibular input, you can do a doll's eye movement. So while doing a doll's eye movement, it is a stimulus by the horizontal vestibular semicircular canal, and that gives an input to vestibular nucleus, and from vestibular nucleus it gives an input to opposite side PPRF center, opposite side 6 cranial nerve, and then rest of the things remain same. Also while doing a caloric test, it remains same. So cold water will move the eyeball and warm water will also move eyeball. So cold water will be towards the side and warm water will be away the side. Short form we remember as a cows. Cold water O opposite, warm water same side. So if I put a warm water in the right ear, I'll get the eyeball movement towards the right side. But if I put a cold water, eyeball will move to the opposite side. So that is the way we try to remember. Same thing what we have told you here. This is diagrammatically again explained that when you want to look to the, this is, you are looking to the left side. This is written medial rectus, lateral rectus, abducent nerve. So you get a stimulus from here. So person is looking towards the left side. So right frontal field area will give a stimulus which will pass on, cross to the opposite side, and opposite side PPRF center will be stimulated. That is right side PPRF center will be stimulated. Sorry, this is left gaze. This is left side of the person. Yes, this is left side of the person. So right frontal field area will be stimulated. So you get a stimulus of left side PPRF center, which will stimulate the abducent nerve. That abducent nerve will stimulate the lateral rectus, and by stimulating the lateral rectus, you will get a left eye moving laterally. That is a abduction, and now impulse from that 6 cranial nerve will cross over to opposite side, stimulates the opposite side 3rd cranial nerve, which will stimulate the medial rectus, and opposite eye will adduct, and this will give rise to left gaze. So left gaze, or we call levo version, right frontal field area, horizontal gaze center which is present in pons. You will have a contraction of a left lateral rectus, and opposite eye, that is right eye, medial rectus will contract. Same thing is shown here. This is another very nicely shown frontal field area. Frontal field area. So that frontal field area center, which will give a stimulus to a opposite eye, opposite side. So opposite side PPRF center, that is paramedian pontine reticular formation center, will be stimulated. From there you get the two fibers. One fiber goes to sixth cranial nerve which supplies lateral rectus. So this side eye will move laterally. So you will have a left side gaze, and another fiber is going to stimulate the nucleus which is present in the sixth cranial nerve, which will cross over to opposite side, will run in a middle longitudinal fascicle and stimulate the third cranial nerve nucleus of opposite side, that is of right side, which will stimulate the medial rectus, giving rise to the right eye AD duct, that is we call adduction. This complete is called as a horizontal gaze. This is how you explain in a left gaze. Now in this internuclear ophthalmoplegia, to explain you that if I get the damage here in medial longitudinal fascicle, say this is a medial longitudinal fascicle of a left side, right side. So if I get a damage here, my right eye cannot adduct. And if it cannot adduct, while looking to the left gaze, left eye will have a lateral rectus movement present, but right eye will not be able to adduct. This is called internuclear ophthalmoplegia because this is a connection between sixth cranial nerve on one side connected to the opposite eye third cranial nerve that is being damaged, that is damage to medial longitudinal fascicle, or it is also called as a medial longitudinal fascicle syndrome, or also called as internuclear ophthalmoplegia. So depending upon which side there is a damage, accordingly the name is being given. So in this internuclear ophthalmoplegia, if you look at, this is the third cranial nerve, this is the sixth cranial nerve, and this is the pathway. If you have got an imaginary line between the two, this is anterior part of a medial longitudinal fascicle. This is a posterior part of a medial longitudinal fascicle. This posterior part is close to the pons, and this is close to the midbrain. So if you get a damage in anterior medial longitudinal fascicle, it is called anterior INO, where you got a center which is responsible for convergence. This is a separate center for convergence. So whenever there is a damage to the anterior medial longitudinal fascicle, you can have associated damage to convergence center. And this convergence center is in a tectum part of a midbrain. So that is pretectal nucleus, and that will give rise to absence of convergence movement. And when there is an absence of convergence movement, you can say that the lesion, means if there is an absence of convergence movement with internuclear ophthalmoplegia, we can say that this is anterior internuclear ophthalmoplegia. While in case of a posterior damage, it is close to the pons, convergence center is not involved. As convergence center is not involved, we get convergence present, but you've got an internuclear ophthalmoplegia which is characterized by the side on which there is a medial longitudinal fascicle damage. On that side, medial rectus movement will be absent, that is adduction will be absent, and opposite eye you will have an abduction present. This is the division in internuclear ophthalmoplegia we call as the anterior INO and posterior INO. Again repeating, posterior close to pons, P pons. In pons there is no convergence center, hence convergence is spared. While in anterior there is a convergence center which is close to midbrain, that is present close to the third cranial nerve nucleus we call the pretectal nucleus, and that is also damaged along with medial longitudinal fascicle. We call it the anterior portion of medial longitudinal fascicle. You will have a internuclear ophthalmoplegia plus convergence being affected. So when there is a combination of these two, you will call that as anterior INO. These are the group of muscle which works together. In case of a gaze, we call that as a yoke muscle. So whenever you want to look to the left side upward, left vertical gaze, superior rectus of left eye is working to look upward, and right eye inferior oblique will be working. These are the permutation combination which will be there. I am not going into detail because, say a very simple example, in a horizontal gaze, when I am looking to the right, my right side lateral rectus is working, opposite eye medial rectus will be working. So very simple. So whenever you are trying to look in one side gaze, when I am looking to the left side, my left side lateral rectus is working and right side medial rectus is working. So this is called yoke muscle. When I am looking down, say I am looking down and out on the left side. So if I am looking down and out on the left side, particularly there will be superior oblique and inferior rectus of two eyeball will be working. Say if I am looking by right eye down and out, so down and out movement is by superior oblique in my right eye, and in a left eye it will down and in, that will be done by inferior rectus. So these are the permutation combination of yoke muscle which will be there. While doing a clinical examination for conjugate case palsy, you must look at the head posture, because to decrease the diplopia, person will change the position of the head posture. If there is an involvement of the third cranial nerve, invariably person will have a ptosis. Whenever you are asking a person to look to the distant object, you can know the primary eye position. First, always look for the eye motility test for each eye. Find out the positional deficit and whether the nystagmus is elicited or not. Invariably, in an internuclear ophthalmoplegia, while asking a person to move the eyeball or adduct, you will get adduction nystagmus in a normal eye. Nystagmus invariably will be spontaneous or on fixation. You can find out the esotropia or exotropia by doing a cover and uncover test. There are other movements also you can look for. You can look for the smooth pursuit movement and saccadic movements. Vestibular ocular reflex will help to differentiate between supranuclear and infranuclear palsy or nuclear palsy, and examine both eye for conjugate movements in different gaze, that is horizontal gaze, vertical gaze. As far as the conjugate case is concerned, we have got the two common gaze which we always test is horizontal gaze, left gaze, right gaze, vertical, that is up and down, and torsional component is usually not tested, but if you test for torsional component, you will be able to pick up some of the odd combinations. Movement regarding horizontal and vertical gaze is generated by two separate centers. Horizontal gaze center is PPRF center and vertical gaze center is called as a rostral intermediate medial longitudinal fascicle, which is present at the junction of thalamo-mesencephalic junction, which is a supranuclear modulation, which supranuclear modulation means which receives an input from two centers, from opposite eye, frontal eye field center, as far as what we call as saccadic movement, and when that gives a supply to PPRF center of opposite side, it is for horizontal gaze, and same side parieto occipital temporal area will supply vertical gaze center as well as PPRF center on the same side for pursuit movement. Vertical gaze center will receive the input from opposite eye as far as the frontal eye field center, and parieto-occipital temporal center will supply same side as far as pursuit movement is concerned. Medial longitudinal fascicle is used to coordinate horizontal movement, and internuclear center helps to coordinate vertical and torsional movements. That is called as internuclear of Casal. Damage to this structure can cause dysfunction in conjugated movements like internuclear ophthalmoplegia, or you can get 1.5 syndrome, or you can get even 8.5 syndrome. This is a simple diagram to explain how exactly the internuclear ophthalmoplegia you can make a diagnosis while asking a person to move eye to the right or move eye to the left. In a normal person, you can see in a normal person, this is at the wrist. Means when you ask the person to look straight at a distant object without moving ahead, both eyeball will be in the center, unless the person has got 3, 4 or 6 cranial nerve palsy where eyeball can be deviated to one particular area. So that will be very easy. So you can have what we call as strabismus if there is an involvement of nuclear, or we call lower motor neuron damage to 3, 4 or 6 cranial nerve. If those are normal, supranuclear pathway is normal, nucleus is normal, and infranuclear pathway is normal, the eyeball will be in the center. Now if you ask the person to look to the right, right eyeball will move laterally, that is lateral rectus, and left eye, medial rectus will contract. This is called right gaze or right horizontal gaze. Same way when you ask to look to the left, left eye, lateral rectus will contract, and right eye, medial rectus will contract. We call it the left horizontal gaze. Suppose if I got a left side INO, meaning my left side medial longitudinal fascicle is damaged, means I cannot move my left eye medially, or I cannot adduct left eye. So now while resting, you can't make out. If you ask the person to move the eye to the right side, now while moving it to the right side, right eye will move laterally, means lateral rectus will be working. Left eye has to adduct, which is done by a medial rectus. That will not be possible because there is a damage to what we call as a pathway, that is medial longitudinal fascicle. And as there is a damage to that, it cannot supply third cranial nerve. So medial rectus cannot work, and you cannot have a conjugated movement. And this will be very clearly identifiable. But now if you ask the person to look to the left, lateral rectus is not affected on the left eye. So lateral rectus will have a abduction, and right eye, medial rectus will contract, and that will give rise to adduction. And this is classical in left INO. Same way in a right INO, In a right eye INO, when you ask the person to look to the left side, right eye cannot adduct, and that is typical in case of a right side INO, or we call as a right side internuclear ophthalmoplegia, or also it is called as medial longitudinal fascicle damage. So whichever side there is a damage, that side we label. So if there is a damage to left side medial longitudinal fascicle, we call as a left INO or right INO, depending upon that. And then I will show you one slide that if it is an anterior damage, if there is an INO with conjugate palsy, we call convergence palsy, then it is anterior, and if there is a sparing of convergence response, it is posterior INO. This is again a same diagram showing you there is a damage to the right side. So this is classical, what we call as a C. You can see that this is medial longitudinal fascicle of the right side. So if that is damaged, this is right INO, meaning right eye cannot move medially. So when I ask the person to look to the left, right eye cannot adduct, and that is typical in case of a internuclear ophthalmoplegia. Internuclear ophthalmoplegia. Now suppose if I get a damage here, very easy to understand. So if I get a damage in the paramedian pontine reticular formation, then this cannot supply lateral rectus. Also, it cannot supply medial rectus of opposite side. So now when I ask the person to look to the left, I cannot move my eyeball laterally. At the same time, I will not be able to move the right eyeball medially. So there will be no movement in the left eye as well as there will be no movement in the right eye. So we'll call that as a complete left gaze palsy. So in a left gaze, I should have a left eye moving or adduct and right eye abduct. So if both are absent, both components are absent, then we call as a total gaze palsy. So that is while looking to the left means it is called left gaze palsy. So any person who comes to you with a left gaze palsy, he will have a damage to left side PPRF center. Very clearly understood. So if I get a damage to PPRF center, that side gaze palsy will be there. Right? Clear? So that is called one complete involvement. Now say if along with that, now suppose I've got a damage to this sixth cranial nerve simultaneously. This sixth cranial nerve. So if I've got a damage to sixth cranial nerve, then I will have total absence of lateral movement. So as there is a total absence of lateral movement with left gaze palsy, clear? Now, along with that, what happens is the fiber which are on the left side here, which are called medial longitudinal fascicle. Now this particular medial longitudinal fascicle will be supplied by right side sixth cranial nerve. You will get from right side sixth cranial nerve. If they are also involved together, now I will have also left eye adduction will be absent. So one full left gaze is completely affected, and left eye can also absence of adduction, that is medial rectus is also involved. This is called 1.5 syndrome. We'll be showing you a slide again in that. But independently, if we talk about internuclear ophthalmoplegia, horizontal gaze is absent. That is on the affected side, the person cannot adduct of affected eye while looking towards that side. Means if I cannot look towards the right side, I've got a right side medial longitudinal fascicle gone. So my right eye cannot abduct, and left eye medial rectus can work. So if I get adduction movement being affected of one eye, adduction movement of one eye being affected, that is medial rectus movement being affected, that side internuclear ophthalmoplegia. So affected, I cannot move towards the nose, that is in horizontal gaze. So if I get absence of movement of opposite eye medially, say I am looking to the right and left eye cannot adduct, so I've got a left side internuclear ophthalmoplegia, and this will be caused by the damage to medial longitudinal fascicle. And while I am doing abduction, say I am looking to the right and left eye, medial rectus is not working. So in a right eye, while doing an adduction, adduction, I will have what we call as abduction gaze. During that time, I will have nystagmus. So along with absence of movement of opposite eye as far as abduction is concerned, in the normal eye, while doing abduction, I will have a nystagmus. This is characteristic of internuclear ophthalmoplegia. Very clear. So right medial longitudinal fascicle gone. What finding I will have? Right side adduction is absent. This is called right side internuclear ophthalmoplegia. You will have a vertical gaze preserved. You will have a convergence preserved, because for convergence the center is in pontine mesencephalic junction. At that level it is called rostral medial longitudinal fascicle. So that center is not affected, so you will have no effect on vertical gaze. And for convergence, you have got a center which is called pretractal nucleus, which is at the level of the upper part of midbrain. So both these are being preserved. And in left eye, you will have left eye, when you are abducting, you will see nystagmus. So these three components, that is adduction absent, nystagmus, and these two are present. Vertical gaze is preserved, convergence is preserved. You will call as a right side medial longitudinal lesion, or right side medial longitudinal fascicular lesion or palsy, and that is also called as a right side INO. So same thing explained here. So this is left side. So when person is looking to the right, left eye cannot adduct. Adduct. Right eye will abduct, and you will have a right eye abduction. So left eye adduction is absent. Left side internuclear ophthalmoplegia. So right eye will abduct, and during that abduction it will produce nystagmus. Vertical gaze will be preserved. Convergence will be preserved. Now here, try to identify. You can see that this eye can abduct while looking to the left. Right eye cannot. So there has to be a right medial rectus involvement. So right side medial longitudinal fascicle must be affected while looking to the right. Now you can see that right eye can abduct. This is adducting. So that side, this side, medial longitudinal fascicle is intact. So it is a right side internuclear ophthalmoplegia, meaning while looking at the left gaze, right adduction palsy is there, right medial rectus is not working. This is while looking to the right side. This is classical right side INO. Vertical gaze is preserved, convergence is preserved, and you will see left abduction nystagmus when the person is looking to the left. Similar way, this is showing you a right side gaze, or we call it a dextroversion. What is happening? This is normal position, or we call primary gaze. When he's looking to the right, you can see that the left eye is not abducting, so there is a left side medial longitudinal fascicular lesion. When he's looking to the left, both eye are moving to the left, that is right eye adducting, left eye abducting. Convergence is present, meaning person has got convergence preserved, that is purely left medial longitudinal fascicle lesion, or the lesion has to be in a lower part, not in anterior part. When there is a damage in the anterior part, convergence will be affected. So this is classical left side INO. Convergence is preserved. And vertical gaze will be also preserved. Because whenever you get a damage in the upper part of the midbrain, you will have a vertical gaze involvement as well as a convergence involvement. And in this, while looking to the right side, person will have a left adduction palsy, and in a right eye which is abducting, that will show you nystagmus. This is a diagram again showing you that this is left gaze, this is left gaze, right medial longitudinal fascicle is damaged, so you will get right medial longitudinal lesions, right side adduction palsy, right eye INO, that is internuclear ophthalmoplegia, vertical gaze preserved, convergence preserved, left eye will be abducting, and this will typical. Here it is again, this is left side. So this is left side medial longitudinal fascicle damage. So on the right side gaze or dextroversion, you will have a left medial longitudinal fascicle involved, left adduction palsy, left side INO, vertical gaze preserved, convergence preserved, and right abducting eye will show you nystagmus. This is same thing explained at your leisure time, you can go through. This is showing you again a pathway which we have explained before. This is typical what we call as a 1.5 syndrome or 1.5. Now you can see here there is a damage to two areas. This parapontine reticular formation is involved, 6 cranial nerve is involved, or you can have involvement of the three structures, these two plus medial longitudinal fascicle on the same side. When you get involvement of that, because of parapontine involvement, you will have a complete gaze palsy. You will have a complete gaze palsy to left side. So while looking to the left, left abduction will not be possible, right adduction will be absent. But when you look to the right side, right eye can abduct because there is no damage to the 6 cranial nerve. There is no damage to the 6 cranial nerve, and PPRF center is preserved. So right side abduction will be there, and that will show you nystagmus. And while doing that, left eye cannot adduct, because this eye, medial longitudinal fascicle is damaged, so you cannot have adduction of this eye. So this is one, this side complete gaze palsy is there. So conjugate horizontal gaze palsy to the left is complete, and when you are doing to the right side, this is half palsy. Adduction is possible, abduction of the right eye is possible, but adduction of the left eye is not there. That's why it is called 1 plus half. So 1.5 syndrome. And this is typically vertical gaze will be preserved, convergence will be spared, because this is the damage in the pons. If you get damage higher up, you can have involvement of convergence as well as vertical movement. Very, very typical. So 1.5 syndrome is usually damage to two portion, that is PPRF and MLF together on the same side. So PPRF will produce complete gaze palsy on that side, plus because of MLF involvement, while having a gaze to the opposite side, on the affected side, adduction will be absent. So that is INO plus lateral gaze to the affected side, you will call classical 1.5 syndrome. So affected eye is almost will be in the center. You cannot have abduction, you cannot have adduction. So that will be typical. Convergence will be spared, vertical gaze will be spared. This is classical. Now you have to identify that if there is a damage. Now you can see here, in a normal position, we call baseline position, left eye is not able to move medially or laterally. Clear? Now, right eye has abducted. Now here, when you are looking to the right side, you can see that this eye is not moving. When you are looking to the left, this eye is not abducting. Means abduction is absent, and here medial rectus is also not working. So there is a complete involvement of what we call the PPRF center on this side, that is left side, plus left side medial longitudinal fascicle is also damaged, which is not allowing this eye to adduct. So complete left side gaze palsy, left eye is having a left side gaze palsy plus left side medial longitudinal INO, left INO. So combination of these two, 1 plus half, so 1.5 syndrome. And this is very common because of infarction and demyelination. And in demyelination, one of the common disorder is multiple sclerosis. So left side 6 cranial nerve palsy, right exotropia, right side gaze, you will have absence of left eye adduction because of left side medial longitudinal fascicle being damaged, and this is PPRF palsy will produce absence of adduction on right eye and abduction on left eye, complete left side gaze palsy. Left side 6 cranial nerve palsy, right abducting eye will show you nystagmus. Convergence will be present, vertical gaze will be preserved. This is classical in case of a damage to same side, or we call ipsilateral, two center being damaged, PPRF center and MLF. So that is typical. So when you get the damage to PPRF center and medial longitudinal fascicle, or damage to 3, PPRF, medial longitudinal fascicle and abduction nerve, you will have typical 1.5 syndrome. So I can go through little faster. Left side will be exotropic, right side 6 cranial nerve palsy, right side PPRF center palsy, right side medial longitudinal palsy, which will give rise to left gaze. When you look at the left gaze, you will have a right adduction absent, and when you have a right side gaze, you will have a total absence of movement. This is right side. So right side total movement will be absent. Right eye will be exactly in the center. And in a left abducting eye, while looking to the left gaze, you will have a left abduction nystagmus present. And vertical gaze will be preserved. Convergence will be preserved. Same thing shown here. I can skip over that side. This is same we have shown you. This is when you get a damage to pons in a dorsal part, along with the damage of 6 cranial nerve or PPRF center with MLF center, and you get a damage to facial nerve, means that is 7th nerve. So 1.5 is gone, plus you have got 7th cranial nerve. So 7 plus 1.5 we call 8.5. So abduction gone, facial gone, PPRF gone, MLF involved. It is 1.5 plus ipsilateral, same side, 7 cranial nerve, lower motor neuron palsy. So right side abduction palsy, right side adduction palsy. So right eye is fixed. Left side will not be able to adduct, can abduct. And while abducting, nystagmus will be present. Convergence will be preserved. Vertical gaze will be preserved. And you will have a lower motor neuron type of a facial palsy. Facial nerve palsy will be lower motor neuron type. So 1.5 syndrome plus 7 cranial nerve together You will call that as, this is a summary of all the different what we have discussed at present. Whatever tried to make out simple. At your leisure time, you can go through. This is internuclear ophthalmoplegia, or we call it a medial longitudinal fascicle syndrome. What happens in abduction palsy? What happens in PPRF lesion? What is a combination of 1.5 syndrome? That is PPRF plus medial longitudinal fascicle gone, you will have a 1.5 syndrome. And if you have got a damage in the frontal eye field lesion, it is very peculiar that frontal eye field, suppose I've got a damage to my right frontal eye field. So left eye, my right frontal eye field will supply left side PPRF center. That left side PPRF center will have a left side gaze. So when that is damaged, left side gaze is absent. So my eye, which is having a powerful action, so that will move my eyeball towards the right side. So it is always said that my eyeball will point towards the site of lesion. So if I've got a right side frontal lobe lesion, I will have an eye pointing towards that side. It is very peculiar. While in case of an epilepsy, so when you get a stimulus, irritative stimulus to the frontal eye lobe field, the eyeball will be to contralateral sides. Conjugate case will be to contralateral stimulus. This is peculiar in an abduction palsy. What happens? Eyeball cannot move laterally, cannot abduct. So you will have to differentiate abduction palsy, pure abduction palsy from internuclear ophthalmoplegia, 1.5 syndrome, etc. In pure abduction palsy, medial rectus movement will be preserved. Hence, if medial rectus is there working in the affected eye, it cannot be 1.5 syndrome. This is 1.5 syndrome. And particularly while diagnosing the what we call the multiple sclerosis or a demyelinating disease, you will have to go for a MRI, and that will give you a very good answer. This is regarding a vertical gaze. I know that it is little difficult. There are few centers which are being there. I've already told you frontal eye field receives an input from occipital lobe, and then from frontal eye field the two fibers will go to two different centers, one center to vertical gaze center and another to what we call as PPRF center. As far as the PPRF center, it will go to the opposite side, and this gives a saccadic eye movements, and also it will go to the opposite side we call vertical gaze center, which is at the junction of thalamus and mesencephalic. So it is called thalamo-mesencephalic junction, and this particular junction, there are two nucleus which are being there. It is called rostral interstitial nucleus of medial longitudinal fascicle. Short form it is called small RI and then MLF. And there is another nucleus called as INC, interstitial nucleus of Casal. So these two nucleus are responsible for vertical gaze. Now, as far as the upward gaze is concerned, when you want to do upward movement, there are two muscles which are working, that is superior rectus and inferior oblique. And in downward gaze, the inferior rectus and superior obliques are working. So these are the two fields. Now, as far as the smooth pursuit movement is concerned, from this visual cortex, it goes to what we call as the parieto-occipital temporal junction, and then from that parieto-occipital temporal junction, it goes to, along with correlation with cerebellum, etc. and basal ganglia, it gives an input to two centers. This will be ipsilateral. Parieto-occipital temporal junction will supply ipsilateral centers. That is, right side parieto-occipital temporal junction will supply right side vertical gaze center as well as right side PPRF center, while frontal eye field center will supply opposite side, that is saccade movement, and this is pursuit movement. This is smooth movement, this is rapid movement. So you have to remember, it is complicated, but if you just follow, you will remember very nicely that PPRF center now will supply same side it is receiving fiber from opposite frontal eye field area, and it will supply, say my left side frontal eye field area will supply my right PPRF center, and right PPRF center will supply right side 6 and opposite side, that is left side medial rectus, that is third cranial nerve, right? While parieto-occipital temporal junction will supply same side PPRF, same side vertical gaze center. So when it supplies the right side PPRF center, it is smooth pursuit movement of the same side. That is, if it is supplying my right PPRF, then I will have a right side gaze smooth movement. So that is as far as the parieto-occipital, and saccade movement is by opposite frontal eye field. And as far as the vertical gaze is concerned, there are two nucleus, again repeating, rostral interstitial nucleus of medial longitudinal fascicle and interstitial nucleus of Casal. So these two are the nucleus which are being responsible. Now as far as the upward gaze is concerned, the fiber crosses to both the sides. So it supplies both sides. So you have got a bilateral innervation from this. So that will give rise to, whenever there is a damage, it will give rise to both side vertical gaze being involved. So bilateral vertical gaze will be involved. And in case of what we call as downward gaze is concerned, this is upward gaze. And as far as the downward gaze is concerned, the fibers are supplying on the same side, same side, same side, and that will give rise to what we call as downward gaze. So bilateral downward gaze center being damaged is rare. This is all those diagrams at your leisure time you can go through. They are very complicated diagram. I have tried to make it as simple as possible. This is that particular control which I have discussed, that is downward gaze and upward gaze. So upward gaze, bilateral innervation, downward gaze is ipsilateral innervation, and I have already repeated that the center, both those nucleus are present in thalamo-mesencephalic junction, and there are two nucleus, one nucleus rostral interstitial medial longitudinal fascicle nucleus, and there is an interstitial nucleus of Casal. So these two are the nucleus, and they are responsible for vertical up and down movement. Up movement bilateral innervation, downward gaze ipsilateral innervation. Saccadic movement will be controlled by same side parieto-occipital temporal junction area, while saccade movement will be controlled by opposite side frontal eye field area. And here you will have a supply to third cranial nerve and fourth cranial nerve. Fourth cranial nerve is superior oblique. So in a downward gaze, superior oblique will be working. So in downward gaze, superior oblique and inferior rectus are working, while in upward gaze, inferior oblique and superior rectus are working, which is supplied by third cranial nerve. So depending upon that, you will have a supply. So parieto-occipito-temporal ipsilateral gaze and frontal eye field opposite side supply. So all those whatever we have discussed till now is being mentioned here. I'm skipping over all this particular slide. At your leisure time you can go through. These are all, those are being explained. Now if you get a supranuclear lesions, means if you get a damage in the frontal eye field area, etc., you will have a inhibition of inhibitory control. Because you have got an inhibition of inhibitory control, that will lead to increased activity of oculomotor nucleus, activating the eye muscle, and that will cause a vertical gaze palsy. Because of vertical gaze palsy, now you will have a peculiar movement which will be, eye will be conjugating down position, and person will not be able to move eye upward, and this is typically described as sun setting sign. The upper eyelid will be retracted because of an increased activity of a levator palpebrae superioris, and that will give rise to lid retraction called as a Colliers sign. Because of increased activity of the superior rectus and inferior rectus muscle, that will pull the eyeball backward, and because of that the eyeball will be retracted inside, and because of a strong medial rectus muscle action, the superior rectus and inferior rectus pulling eyeball backward, that causes retraction. Lateral rectus muscle supplied by the abducens nerve pulls the eyeball laterally, so there is a nystagmus movement. So there will be nystagmus, and there will be convergence will be retracted. So convergence will be difficult, and when you try to have a near vision, the light reflex is lost due to the supranuclear lesion. Accommodation reflex is present because there is a contralateral visual cortex which is working, but you will have a light near dissociation. The vestibular apparatus will help you to differentiate the pontine lesion from the supranuclear lesion. If pontine nucleus are intact, in a doll's eye movement, when you are stimulating the semicircular canal, horizontal semicircular canal, it will induce the movement of the eyeball. That indicates that pontine center is working, and this will help you to find out supranuclear lesion from a pontine lesion. So always go for a doll's eye movement to differentiate doll's eye movement and caloric test. That will help you differentiate between pontine lesion and supranuclear lesions. There are disorders which involves the vertical gaze palsy, that is Niemann-Pick disease, Wilson disease, and kernicterus, which is very common in children. And there are some other causes which can produce basilar artery ischemia, which can also produce vertical gaze palsy. Also, there will be damage to bilateral midbrain tectum. You can have a vertical gaze palsy. Classical example of dorsal midbrain damage is Paranoid syndrome. There is another condition which is quite common, we call progressive supranuclear palsy. That can also have a vertical gaze palsy. In thalamic hemorrhage also you can have a vertical gaze palsy. And also in case of anoxic encephalopathy and phenothiazine toxicity, you can have a damage to those center and vertical gaze palsy will be affected. I know that this is little complicated. Whatever I have understood, I will try to make it simple. I hope you must have understood. If you still find it difficult, you can contact me. You can put in a comment center. I'll try to answer your questions. Thank you for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable, and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. And I think this will be helpful to you when you see some person with strabismus or eyeball movement being affected. You should find out whether it is a gaze palsy or not. Again, I'm repeating, whenever you want to look for the gaze palsy, you should look at conjugated movements, not individual eye movements. So while you are looking at the conjugated movement, you will be able to pick up a gaze palsy involvement or gaze involvement. And when there is a gaze involvement, you should look for gaze palsy, which can be INO, which can be 1.5 syndrome, which can be 8.5 syndrome, or even we call it a cortical damage, cortical center damage, we call it a supranuclear palsy, which can involve vertical gaze, or you can have even what you call as a nuclear palsy, which is involvement in the brainstem, or infranuclear pathway, that is individual cranial nerves, lower motor neuron palsy. I hope this will be helpful to you. If you like this video, please push like button, share with your friends, etc., who may be benefited. See you again in next lecture. I'm going to put two videos which will show you very nicely in a video what type of finding you come across in case of these different types of gaze pulsing.